Hey everybody, Ryan Garland here, CEO of Paradyme. I'm really excited today to introduce you to a group of guys that have a very unique investment vehicle that I think a lot of investors need to know about, especially with the economic times. Today is what, the 11th? No, what's today? The 14th, 15th? It is not a beautiful day to be in the industry and worry about your investments at the time. So they have it's called the Deferred Sales Trust. There's a lot of people that understand the deferred or the Delaware Statutory Trust. It's two completely different vehicles, but I'm going to let Robert go ahead and dive in and kind of explain this vehicle so that way you guys can get a deeper dive, understand what it is they offer. And if any one of you are interested, I'm going to make a direct connection for you and go from there. But I'm hoping you guys will see some fruit. And again, as always, I like to add value. So Robert, please go ahead and take the reins.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate everybody joining us here and look forward to educating you all on something I've been involved with over 25 years. The Deferred Sales Trust, just so everybody understands, is a made-up name. It's a trademark name that we created many years ago with our tax attorneys. I am the CEO and founder of the estate planning team. I've been involved with the Deferred Sales Trust for many years, and more importantly, my goal is to help people understand the structure, introduce you to the tax attorney, and more importantly, be able to help you, look at your transaction to see if you can utilize the DST for deferring your capital gains tax. So again, the potential for types of assets that we're looking at here are business assets. Selling your company, your professional practices, doctors. We have CPAs that are selling their practices, dentists that are selling their practices. And a lot of it, a lot of these practices sit on top of commercial real estate, or you've got some apartments or office buildings or things that you've made a lot of money over the years, and you're just looking to get out. You'd like to sell, one of your investment properties. These are all things that we can use in the DST. Very simple, high-end primary residence, even major private stock positions, and we can do public traded stock with a different type of DST, but we can work with that, and certainly ESOP plans and different things that we work with, valuable art, collectibles. We've even done grain elevators in the Midwest for people. So we've got it all. Bitcoin, you name it, cannabis deals. We've done everything. So my thing is, we're just here to try to help you guys understand and more importantly, defer that capital gains, defer that depreciation recapture. And more importantly, even remove the assets out of the taxable state with our other trusts. So there's some neat things that we could do to really help you get liquid, get diversified, and live on more money. And a lot of people like that today with what's going on with the markets. They're all concerned having liquidity, having their market their money's diversified, and not having to go back into real estate under like a 1031 or a Delaware Statutory Trust, as Ryan said. Delaware Statutory Trust is different than us. It's not the same at all. We're completely getting you out of real estate or a business, and sometimes with a business, you don't have the right to do a 1031 exchange. So, what this does is gives you the ability to defer capital gains tax. So that's the goal here. Is let's just take a simple example. John Smith sample case, selling a business or real estate, $5 million sale, $1 million cost base. There's about $4 million gain. Federal's about 20%. I live in the lovely state of California, so it's 13.3%, with California state, and then Medicare 3.8. So you're looking at about $1,484,000. Some of you have much larger gains. We've done, $250 million gain. We have done, small type deals. I mean, again, our goal is to make sure that this is suitable for you and make sure it makes sense for you. But you can imagine just on a $4 million gain, $1,484,000. That's a lot of money, and a lot of people don't want to write that check. Certainly, as these deal sizes get bigger, the checks get bigger, and the amount of money that we're deferring is pretty meaningful. So our goal here is to keep this $1,484,000 working for you in your column. What we're creating is an interest-free loan from the government, ultimately that would be inside this trust, and we'll walk you through how that works. So the goal here is to, why pay capital gains when you don't have to? Let's show you how to defer that. So the real easy steps of how this trust works is really, we start with you as a client that has an asset that you want to sell. Really the goal here is for you to meet Todd here, on one of our tax attorneys. He's right in the Franklin, Tennessee area. Great guy, and has done a lot of M&A deals, a lot of work in this area. John Bomber, who's on this phone call here, is also one of our top financial advisors, been in advisory for many years, and I've known John for a long time. I work with John, and he's great, and certainly Ryan. So our goal here today is to basically introduce you to how you can sell your asset. The step one is really what we do is we actually sell to a third-party trustee. So Todd is a third-party trustee, as well as we have another 24 different trustees across the country in most every state. The goal here is if you sell your asset to a cash buyer that has the cash or financing combination cash, and you take constructive receipt of the cash, you're going to pay capital gains tax, on your gain, and perhaps depreciation recapture tax. To sidestep that is really what we like to do early on, before you completely remove all your contingencies on the sale of your asset or your business or whatever it might be. We'd like to, get you in front of our tax attorneys so that the tax attorney can introduce you to the concept of how our DST and our third-party trustee could buy your asset from you under an installment. Now, under 453A, we can only put in $5 million per person per year. So husband and wife can defer $10 million. If you're single, $5 million. But we have another trust that can do, there's no limit to the amount of trust monies there. So if you had like a 40 or 50 or $100 million deal, we could take 10 million, defer it in the traditional DST, and then in our DST plus, we can certainly increase that to a much higher number, to whatever the balance is in your sale. So again, we don't have to pay interest under 453 to the government. There is a rule under 453 that you'd have to pay interest on the tax on the anything over your exemption, which is 5 million per person per year. So in this case, we can move around those exemptions by using two trusts. And if you're under those exemptions, that's just fine. So the third-party trustee in this case would want to buy your asset from you for the price. So in this illustration, the $5 million sale with a $1 million basis, $4 million gain, this third-party trustee is going to buy your asset for $5 million. And a little bit more than 5 million, just to cover expenses and stuff. And, we'll buy that, for a little bit more. And then ultimately we'll end up, giving you an installment. If you want to take some cash at the close and pay tax on it, you certainly can. But if you'd like to ultimately sell it to the trust, you would sell this to your asset to the trust, and then that would step up the basis to the $5 million plus that the trust bought it for. And then the trust would turn around and sell it to the buyer that ultimately was kind of out there in the wings looking to buy your asset, and now has come together with you that would like to buy it, but instead of buying it directly from you and you taking the constructive receipt of the 5 million, the buyer is buying it from the trust that bought it from you under an IRC 453 installment. So essentially you're selling it to the trust under an installment and not taking any proceeds or cash. The trust turns around with a stepped up basis of 5 million and sells it to the actual cash buyer. And then the actual cash buyer delivers the cash to the trust in exchange for the asset. And then our goal prior to closing is to be able to create an asset allocation on your money, and how that money would be allocated would be really based on your risk tolerance as a note holder. You being the seller, taxpayer, note holder, you move from owning the asset to becoming a creditor of the asset, and you become a creditor to the portfolio. So a lot of our money would ultimately end up in just like treasury bills right now, until you could come together with our team to manage the money, to be able to put it into investments that are safe, secure, diversified, and liquid, and more importantly, be able to meet the obligation of this installment note. Remember, installment notes have been around 90 something years in the code, and normal traditional installments are, if I bought your house and you financed me and you owned your house 100%, you could self-finance. Is that a good idea? Typically not. You really don't want to finance an asset that could go down. You want to try to and not only can it go down, but it could be considered illiquid because all real estate is considered illiquid. But certain times it's hot, and people forget that idea about liquidity because everything's hot. But when liquidity changes, real estate becomes a real problem. So in our situation, a traditional installment is you're financing your home to somebody, and then if that somebody doesn't pay, you get your home back. In this case, the reason why you want to finance this trust because the trust steps up the basis, sells it to the cash buyer. Cash buyer puts the cash into investments or into the trust, and the trust puts the money into the allocation that's suitable based on your risk tolerance as a note holder, and puts it into investments that are safe, secure, liquid, and very diversified. So again, our goal is to be able to pay you on this note because prior to closing, and we always prior to closing create a DST note, which is going to give you an interest rate and a payback period. You can do interest only, interest and principal. You could defer for a period of time. The goal is to be able to pay you back, and you're going to be living on the full 5 million. That's the goal, is to be able to live on the full 5 million versus having to pay the 1,484,000 and living on that net amount after tax versus pre-tax, leaving that money inside there so you can live. And then the goal here is to have the last piece would be the secured DST installment be made, in this case from the third-party trustee on a regular basis. So you would be able to see, in this case, the trust account online. You'd be able to get, your systematic note payments at the end of the year. The trustee sends you a 1099 on the interest or interest and principal, and you just pay your taxes according to whatever schedule you decide that you want to take, and that's all negotiated pre-DST, pre-sale. So all of that is done. Again, you get to speak with Todd, and there's no upfront legal fees. The bottom line is Todd would be working on a conditional engagement. He would work with you to basically help you organize the sale, take the sale all the way from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way from those steps. And then at the end, when the asset is sold, Todd would receive his one-time fee at the close, and the only other fee that would be set up was the annual trustee fee and the advisory fee. Again, this is a great strategy, I think, because it gives you liquidity and diversification, tax deferral, and then it also gives you the ability to go back into maybe buying another business in real estate. And that's another conversation. We can show you how that works as well. So we don't want to all, some of you like the stock market, some of you have no knowledge of the stock market, some of you like real estate. The goal here is to be able to make sure that anything that goes inside this allocation is approved by you. So Ryan, do you have any questions or anything you want to ask before we dive into some other planning? But I just like to, just kind of open this up for some questions for our audience.
You were totally on a roll. I did not want to interrupt you. I heard it a couple of times, and I'm still intrigued every time. So actually, I do have a question. So I know a lot of investors really kind of familiar with the 1031. And once you have sold the asset and that 1031 goes into a third party, as far as that gains, if you were to use this vehicle, do you have a certain time frame where you have to identify a new asset and try to, invest into whatever that vehicle is, or do you have some time?
And I'll answer that. So this is not a 1031, like Bob mentioned earlier. So the time frames, the 45 days to identify a replacement property, the 180 days to close on it, the fact that it has to be invested in real estate, all of those are requirements under Section 1031. We are not operating under that section, so none of those apply, which means that, one, you buy real estate if you want to, you don't have to, not a requirement. If you do buy real estate, you do it whenever you want. If that's in 6 months or 6 years, doesn't matter, there's no time requirement. So all of those are off the table, which kind of opens it. Why one of the main complaint about 1031s are those strict timeframes. You're forced at gunpoint by the IRS to buy back into the same market you just sold out of, right? So it's like, wait a minute, I'm going to sell and then have to buy right back in. There's no waiting on the sidelines.
Right.
This allows you to wait on the sidelines because it's not anything to do with 1031 time requirements.
So I've received some questions over the last couple of days. Just kind of, again, today's actually the 16th, so I had to re-look at that. But so a couple of questions I had the last few days with some of my clients are, what should I do? Should I try to sell my assets right now and at least get, go into a cash position and just sit tight and kind of find out which direction the market goes to start making some new investments? And I know, again, kind of asking the question about the 1031, a lot of people are just worried about, offloading an asset. Obviously, taxes are massive. And then they also don't want to have a gun to their head, like you just mentioned, of wanting to make another investment and even into the same asset class. The fact that this has the ability to, in essence, offload any asset, whether it's stocks, a business sale, what have you, and open up, a vehicle like this, and then you can invest that money in whatever way you see fit. Is that, just to dumb it down, that's correct, right?
Yeah, and one of the main benefits of it is diversification, right? So we hear from people every day, they say, I have a huge percentage of my net worth tied up in this one thing, right? So if that one thing goes bad, I'm stuck. So what it allows you to do is liquidate that, defer the gains, but then invest in a million different things if you want to, right? So it really just provides you a way to not have so much concentration in whatever that asset is.
Perfect. John, I got a question for you, and I think you're on mute, but real quick. So since I can't give financial advice, but you can. So what is the standard kind of, diversification percentage for example, from a wealth management side, investors, let's just call it a few years ago, would diversify X amount of their liquidity into real estate. What are you seeing happening right now? Or do you seeing that shift a little bit, going more into real estate than what they had originally? Or kind of where do you see this, the diversification from your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. We're actually seeing broad diversification across different asset classes. And when it does come to real estate, we're seeing a lot of diversification into certain particular types of real estate assets, from multifamily to warehouses, away from more commercial real estate, maybe single tenant, triple net type properties. But, it all, depends on the market environment. And, we do a really thorough job of, creating a risk assessment for that note holder or the client, and sticking to that, taking a long-term perspective into the markets, and seeing exactly what their hot buttons are, what is something that they have experience and knowledge in, and something that they like to invest in. So we try to it's hard these days to think about next week with the volatility in the markets and a lot of the headline, the shiny objects, but we really try to help people, take a bigger, take the bigger picture view when it comes to their investments.
Yeah, the mindset right now is to retain the wealth, not try to create a whole bunch of wealth. It's kind of, I think a lot of people are just really worried and kind of going, how do I retain the wealth in which I've created right now, but then make smart, conservative investments and minimize my risk a little bit more. Just, because like you said, there is bright, shiny objects out there, but having the right team behind you and kind of understanding where a lot of other, other high net worth investors are kind of participating in investments, I think will allow people to feel more comfortable and confident that they can still make plays, they can still park capital, but where's everybody making those investments? So you can help with that too, right? You can kind of create a risk tolerance portfolio platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Robert and I have created some really special relationships with some very solid institutional type of managers when it comes to managing risk, managing investments in the markets. And so we have nice exclusive arrangements with firms that typical retail investors cannot have access to. So just by the buying power that we have at our firm, we've able to secure relationships like that. So we can offer those to DST clients, as well as some of our other outside clients that don't have DSTs, but may have them in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Okay, Robert, keep going.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about how a lot of people, when they do DSTs with us, they like the idea. A lot of them don't even have insurance. So many people are not excited about insurance. We're, our organization partners with one of the largest, is the largest premium financing companies in the world. I mean, we we have a relationship with a company that's done $56 billion of life insurance. And, you want a company that's, the top producing company for 4 of the major top tier life insurance companies. So with that said, I mean, a lot of people would love to be able to have life insurance. Life insurance is, we're all going to pass away. But what I always like about this is that can we leverage the US government's money to get a free life insurance policy? And I'm going to show you that today. For a lot of these very high net worth clients, they don't have enough life insurance. They don't want to make monthly payments or quarterly or annual payments to their life insurance policy. It just, kind of, doesn't sound exciting. And so, but they know they need it. So let me show you one of the best ways to improve your family wealth, estate planning and utilizing the IRS's money to do that. So we start with a DST trustee, which, you guys recall, you've done a DST. And, we're looking for people that have a net worth of over $15 million in this category. So we do not want anybody that's under a net worth of $15 million. So that's kind of the cutoff. Or if you're over 15 million, you are a potential prospect for this. And we'd love to share how this works. So you've done the DST, hypothetically, you've got all this money inside the DST. And our next step is to, you're really the client, the note holder. So we want to make you the insured. Our goal is to create a life insurance trust, an irrevocable life insurance trust for your family, for your kids. Now, what's interesting is you've got all this money over here on the right side, which is DST money, and you've got your trust and you're the client. It's owed all this money. But now what we do is we reach out to a lender, and we have all these insurance companies, lenders out there that, when I say insurance companies, I'm talking about insurance companies that are lenders. And then there's actual banks. I'm not sure if the banks are in this business anymore, just kidding, but because they had a little bit of a problem lately, which is not funny. It's been a real struggle for them. So, but I do think that the banking system's sound, and I do think that ultimately it'll all come back in place. But lenders here would love to make a loan, and just look, I mean, lenders are making loans into a life insurance policy. And look, is that a bad loan for a lender? No, you're guaranteed to die, and you're dealing with an A+ rated insurance company. It's one of the best loans that they can make. So, and a lot of you have owned properties, and you've leveraged properties. You don't just go pay cash for an apartment building. You go out and you buy an apartment building with a loan, right? You put some money down, and basically you have the bank finance that. So what we were proposing, excuse me, we've had over 30 years of experience in this with with our team here that have done the 56 billion. And look, they're guaranteeing that this loan will continue to fund this, and they've never had an issue over the period of that time of ever having a loan get funded then not funded the next year. They continue to get loans that get funded into this life insurance policy. So our goal is to, let's say somebody wants a $40 million life insurance policy outside the taxable state. So that's not going to be subject to estate taxes. It's been set up. And the goal here is that the trust would actually allow for the lender to lock onto money. So a lot of times when, we're going to insure, in this case, the husband and wife, but we're going to make sure that this irrevocable life insurance trust belongs to the kids. Now, doing that, the lender is willing to finance this, but they want to lock on to some money. Well, where are they going to get that money? Well, if you see that little line going down to the green allocation, a good chunk of that money is the IRS's money. So let's have the lender just lock onto it. And a lot of times what we do is we either just put that money in the bank as a CD, or we buy just an annuity where we can actually post that as collateral to the lender, and we use a guaranteed annuity, so it has no risk, and the lender sees it has no risk, and they'll lend on it. So we're just lending on money that's inside the trust that's been pledged for the kids, and ultimately the lender is financing, in this case the trust. So that's the goal, is that they're going to loan. In this case, the trust itself is going to loan interest to the lender, and it's going to loan the collateral to the lender, and then ultimately that lender is going to fund the life insurance policy. So, what really has happened here is that you basically are getting the IRS's money to pay for your life insurance policy with that extra money, and you're collateralizing that extra money. And if you died, I mean, just to, one of you or both of you, as in this case, as the clients, this policy would be funded with $40 million outside the taxable estate. And then ultimately that insurance policy would pay back the loans with the interest that's been paid. Off goes the collateral, and the kids would receive not only the death benefit outside the taxable estate, but they would inherit the deferred sales trust note. Remember, back to the original note, you have that note that's owed from the trust. Your children would receive that, or whoever your beneficiaries are would receive that upon your demise. So you would have that usually in your living trust, or however you hold your assets for estate planning. That note from the traditional DST would go back to your kids upon passing, but also upon passing, in this case, the life insurance would pay off. The kids would get $40 million of death, hypothetically, in this case. And then, the lenders get their money back, because again, net of the death benefit, the lenders get their money back that they post. The goal here is when they put this money in, you're going to develop an arbitrage over what the rate is of the lending and the earnings inside the policy. And that's how the loan gets paid back. And we also cover insurance during the course of the time until that loan gets paid back, that we have an additional life insurance policy over and above the 40 million that covers the actual loan to the bank. So if you died immediately and you had a $40 million death benefit and a $10 million loan, there's going to be an additional $10 million of death benefit that's going to cover the loan, pay that off, and then pay the net to the kids of $40 million. So that's just really something I wanted just to share. Ryan, do you have any questions on that, or anybody?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, but this right here is what caught my attention, because in essence, you're creating backstop after backstop to be able to continue to fund that policy. You're using government money to, in essence, create a interest payout to allow you to pay for those policies. And in essence, if you were, let's just say you're worth 15, 20 million from a sale of an asset, you're able to create other investment vehicles, deferred obviously those taxes, and create more value in 40 million just on a policy separate from whatever the additional investments could be. So I think this right here, in my opinion, is a true high level way to truly create, retain wealth for generational, mindset. So I don't have any questions. It's cool because every time I hear this and talk to you, I could see each vehicle and how you're putting it all together and why. So it makes complete sense to me, and I'm hoping our viewers will see that too. And if they don't, we're going to give them your number and you can answer.
Well, we'd love to help them. I mean, look, everybody's different. We all want to, we don't just say one size fits all. The customization of every one of these deals are really important for each and every one of these listeners here to know that we will not just treat you as, okay, a herd mentality. We're not going to herd you in, herd you out. We're going to customize. I mean, I can tell you that our goals are your goals. Our goals to figure out what you want, what you're looking for, design it around you. Some people don't really need life insurance. Some people don't want life insurance. Some people don't qualify for life insurance. Our goal is to just really size everybody up for the goal of what they want, and be able to find a solution for each and every party here, and that's the goal. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of this, and really kind of move forward with the next steps of reaching out to Ryan. If you're interested in this, certainly, Ryan can absolutely tee up a phone call with us to get an illustration. Todd can put together a nice formal illustration showing you, hey, here's your basis, here's your sale or potential sale. Let's take a look at this and see what tax liability that we could defer. Does this make sense to make this decision on selling? I think a lot of decisions are made on looking at the tax knowledge. A lot of people come to us to say, I'd love to sell, but I can't afford to sell. Now you can. And a lot of professionals in the business brokerage space and real estate space with a lot of the top commercial people call us and say, I can't get my deal done. We're just too far apart, and taxes are one of the biggest obstacles in my way of making this deal. is there a way you can help me show the seller how we can defer taxes so we could make the deal between us? And then some people are unrealistic in their price because of taxes. So when they see that they can save this kind of money and defer this kind of money, it allows for a little bit more of a discount to make the deal in some of these turbulent times right now. So again, all we're trying to do is try to navigate a good outcome for both parties, the buyer and the seller, but more importantly, getting the seller the best outcome possible, and then obviously doing other planning that can help their family and guide them for a future benefit here. So so that's really all we wanted to say. I know there's been a lot of information, but again, we'd like to drill down on anybody's interest in this and see if this makes sense for anybody. And Ryan, I really wanted to thank you for setting this up. And I know you have a lot of wonderful people that you work with, and we'd love to explore the opportunity of helping them. And we look forward to that day.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. Thank you very much again for your time. I love to hear you talk. And I really respect this model. And what I'll do is when we get some feedback, I may end up asking for you guys to do another follow-up video, and even kind of talk maybe, because I liked our conversation even prior to the recording, kind of where everything's at with the banking system and so forth. So John, I think your level of knowledge in that space is impressive. So we'll get some feedback, and obviously we'll probably do another scheduled call. So thank you guys very much for your time. I think it was very fruitful.
Thanks, Ryan.
Excellent. Thank you guys.
Appreciate
have
it,
a great
Ryan.
rest of the
Thank
week,
you.
and appreciate everybody's time here this afternoon, and look forward to fielding any interest here from our parties and our listeners here.
Right. Thank you, Robert.